Betty Grable's legs were legendary, insured for $1 million. Her smile sold war bonds, and her pinup photo was tucked into the pockets of millions of soldiers fighting in World War II. She was the darling of the nation, the highest-paid woman in America by 1947. But behind that radiant grin was a woman carrying a painful secret. Her time in the spotlight was limited. And when her final act came, it was nothing like anyone expected. The story of Betty Grable exposes one of Hollywood's harshest realities. Born in St. Louis in 1916, Betty was thrust into show business by a determined stage mother who lied about her age to get her into Hollywood. At just 13, she was dancing in chorus lines, learning the unforgiving rules of the movie business early. In Hollywood, your worth was measured by your last hit, and Betty discovered that lesson quickly. She bounced between studios, faced rejection, and clawed her way back to the top. When success finally arrived in 1940 with Down Argentine Way, she was 24 and already exhausted, having lived through what felt like 3 separate careers. Finally, she became a star. The 1940s belonged to Betty Grable. That iconic pinup, glancing over her shoulder in a white bathing suit, became the most requested image of the war. Soldiers called her the girl with the $1 million legs. Fox Studios crowned her their golden girl, producing hit after hit in Technicolor that raked in profits. She married bandleader Harry James in 1943, had 2 daughters, and seemed to have everything. But Hollywood never lets anyone hold on to it forever. By the early 1950s, cracks began to show. Betty was in her mid-30s, considered ancient in Hollywood's ruthless age system for women. Fox began cultivating younger talent. When Marilyn Monroe arrived in 1953, the message was clear: Betty was yesterday's sensation. They cast both women in How to Marry a Millionaire, a role that symbolized a passing of the torch. Publicly, Betty smiled through it. Privately, it crushed her. The woman who had carried Fox through the war was being discarded. Her marriage to Harry James fell apart, and her drinking escalated. The final blow came later. By the early 1970s, Betty was performing in Vegas, doing summer stock, holding onto dignity while the world forgot her. In 1972, she was diagnosed with lung cancer. She was only 55, and the disease progressed swiftly and mercilessly. But the deepest heartbreak was Hollywood's indifference. No studio rallied behind her, no grand farewell. The woman who had been worth millions, whose image had comforted soldiers on the front lines, died quietly in Santa Monica. Her ex-husband, Harry James, visited near the end and was stunned by how much the disease had consumed her. Betty Grable, the woman whose legs had once been her fortune, could barely walk. She passed away on July 2, 1973, at 56. Her funeral was small, attended by a handful of old friends. Hollywood had moved on. The industry she had helped sustain through the war, the studio that had profited endlessly from her charm and talent, had no time to mourn. Betty Grable's story isn't just about stardom, it's about obsolescence. Hollywood loved her while she was profitable and abandoned her the moment she was. Those $1 million legs, the insurance was just a publicity stunt. In the end, Betty learned the truth many stars have faced. In Hollywood, you're only remembered as long as you're useful, and when you're gone, someone younger is already waiting in your spotlight.